Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Unravel Your Mind. We're here to help transform relationships to love and life. And I'm so happy you're here. If you're here live, welcome. I'm happy to answer any questions that come up. We've got a whole roster of them today, though. So please, in the comments, if you have a question or you have a comment based on what we're talking about, I'm more than happy to hear from you. If you're watching on replay, same applies. I will come back to the notes and be sure to take your question and answer it the following week. So thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to go through this list. I think there's so many that many people are dealing with. And, a lot of times there's a question and it may not be your exact details. However, there's something in there, probably some pearl you can take away for your own journey. So stay open-minded, open-hearted, and let's get to the questions. All right, question number 1. I believe I've met a true soulmate, but life is not aligning to be together as a romantic couple. How do you shift from thinking he is the one to build a life with to a one? And just appreciate the connection and love and move on to another person. Well, I feel like what I'm going to say, you already know, but it's always a great reminder that you are the one. And it's so important that we just stay anchored in our self-love and that we're really, really there. Now, I get it. There's a lot of times we meet people, well, not a lot, actually. It's kind of rare. Where we meet people and we're like, we know this is like a soulmate connection. I think where it gets sticky and where we get a little off course is that we get attached to the idea of romance. And I hear you saying that you're over that idea of the romantic couple. But in a sense, like, I don't really believe that because I know how hard this is. I've had it happen to me many times where you have a real deep connection. It's a karmic connection. It's a past life connection, potentially. It's a familiarity because they are showing you a template that feels like home to you. It's something you share. Sometimes it's a wound, right? Sometimes we share that wound template and that's what really attracts us and the chemistry's strong and we want to we just want to be in that relationship because we share that wound. And sometimes it's that they have a template that we are aspiring to be. And I don't mean like their whole being. I mean, like there's something about them. Like maybe they're super creative and you're like, gosh, I wish I could be more creative, or I wish I could be more expressive in myself. And so we get really attracted to these templates in someone else. And then we start to get all of these ideas, which are fair, but ideas around what we think that person is supposed to be for us in our life. And when they feel like home, when they really feel like they get us, that they see us, it's hard to not want to be oftentimes in a more intimate relationship, especially if they don't. So why is there that disconnect? And I think what the word that comes to me is trust. You have to trust that the universe, the powers that be, your higher self, their higher self are intentionally not putting you together in a romantic situation because you're not ready to be there. It doesn't mean you're not ready for romance. It means that that person is not in full alignment for your growth that you've called in, right? So this is a soul plan. You created the soul plan. And it sucks when we feel like we're in discord and like, well, if this is my soul plan, then why would I call this person in? And then why would I have to torture myself on like, why are they not with me? And you've got to trust that your higher self is at play here. And your higher self is saying, no, this person is not the right person for that next level for whatever reason. And you've got to get your mind out of the idea of figuring that out and letting it come. You'll get the lesson if you're open to it. So stay open-hearted. I know you are. I feel you are. But also just let it come and be in that feminine receiving mode for everything, for abundance of love, for romance, and let your heart lead the way and get over the idea of even a one. Yes, I get it. We all want someone in our life that's here to support us. But I think when we really stay in the I am the one, then that will bring the vibration of love to us that we want to share with someone else, because it is just our love that we're ready to pour out. And I know you're there too. So you just have to get beyond this mental mess of the ideas we have about someone and what our mind tries to tell us their role is in our life. Because if that role was for you guys to be together, you would be together. And so we have to let go. Just it's always like letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go of these ideas of what people are supposed to mean in our life. And I know sometimes that can feel disappointing, but you created it. You created the situation. You created this character. And now you just want to be in the divine holiness of your heart being whole and allowing whatever to align that is really for your highest purpose to help catapult you to that next place, but at the same time being perfectly happy exactly where you are. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. If not, and you have more questions, please put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer more, and I always love to hear from you guys. So, all right, let's go on to question number 2. How can I come to terms with an adult child who has stonewalled me? I've stopped trying to get her to communicate. Now I need to know how to accept it and don't know how. Yeah, this is a tough one because we give birth. Well, I haven't given birth, but as parents, I know we give birth to children and we pour our hearts and our souls into these little characters. And we believe that they're going to be reciprocal of that love to us. And when they're not, it's a really tough place to be. Not only when they're not, but they're actually stonewalling you, like they're actually putting up big, big blocks. The only thing you can do is continue to go deep inside you. I know you are, but I'm just encouraging yet again for you to keep going deep into that pit within your own stomach. I don't know, it's just coming to me like the third chakra, like your own soul's place, like where it resides in your physical body and your physical being, and keep sitting with whatever feeling comes up. And as tough as that can be, because like we just get tired of feeling sad about these things, right? We get tired of feeling these emotions about loved ones who hurt us. And it creates a lot of heartbreak and a lot of heartache. And it's still calling you to go deep in there and feel that, because there's something more in there for you. And only you know what that is. Only you, meaning your soul. I know you're going, but wait, tell me what it is. And I want to tell you what it is, but it's a journey in there. And it's a journey that's different for everybody. What is it that's being asked of me to not feel this intensity of the separation from my child? Right? And knowing that we're always connected in some realm to other people in our life, even when they don't want to be connected to us. And so it's constantly reframing, but not ignoring. A really important difference. So you feel the feeling, you don't push it down and ignore it, you reframe it, you feel it, and then you reframe it in the sense of, I am going to allow myself to feel this feeling. And now I'm going to move beyond that feeling. Otherwise, you know what happens? You go into that sinker, right? That sinker of just like the same storylines go over and over and over. And that doesn't get us anywhere. So that's where you start to reframe, right? So just every time you start going into that feeling, feel it. Allow your body to feel it. But, oh, I feel it there. Oh, I feel it here. Oh, wherever it is in your body that you feel, that's great. I know it sounds weird to say, but it's always great when you can feel it in your body, because it means you're not numb. When we get numb and we're not feeling things and we're just thinking through them, that's the scarier place to be, because then we're just in our minds, we're not in our hearts. And pain is always calling us to be in the body and to be in touch with our heart center so that we can open and release. Right? So everyone thinks heartbreak is so terrible. I don't like heartbreak either when I'm in it, but I always know, and my guiding light in heartbreak is always that I know that when the heart breaks open, that I have an opportunity to heal something within, and that more light can come in and come right back out and right out to everyone else. if I don't sit and wallow in the heartbreak. And it feels like, when it comes to children, like those precious souls that are so close to us for so many reasons, it's a challenge. I get it. And they're also the biggest opportunity to have the biggest breakthrough. And I feel like you're there. I feel like you're really there at that breakthrough point, and that it's just staying the course to feel the emotion, release it, reframe it, and keep moving forward. And I would also say one last thing. I would visualize that conversation as though you're having whatever it is you want to have with her, to say, this is how I feel about you. I so love you, and I so appreciate everything, and I so want to understand every aspect of you. And just keeping that door open, that you want to understand them even more so than wanting to I guess to release it within you, because when we really do understand others, we start to unravel whatever it is within ourselves that they're here to teach us, right? It's a lesson that they're here to teach us. So children are beautiful, and I know they can be a nightmare all at the same time, whether they're 2 and they're in the terrible 2s, or they're 22. When we're in discord and we're not feeling the love, especially when we've poured so much into them, it can be challenging. But I promise you, if you feel it, you reframe it, you release it, you're going to start to really blossom into another time space reality with that person. And as I say that, releasing ideas and stories from the past, right? That's part of the reframe. But just to clarify, that's like not going back into the storylines of, oh, well, this happened, or I sent this, or I did this, and it didn't change anything. Like, you have to stop going back into those stories of what didn't work, and just keep moving forward as though it is working, and have that conversation with her at a soul level. I actually feel like there was something else. Okay. So need to know how to accept it and know how. Yeah. So I think I've answered that one. If not, please, in the comments, give me some insight, and I'll certainly go a little bit deeper or clarify anything that's not. Okay, let's go on to, oh, I see here. I know what it was, is there's a part 2 to this. How do I forgive myself for not being the parent she wanted? I read recently to write letters to her about how I feel about her, and conversations I would have with her if I could. Any other suggestions? So yes, this is like right on mark with what we were just talking about, that it's, you can write a letter. I think the letters are fine. I also feel like part of this is, it's the visualization and it's the feeling in your heart as though you're having that conversation. So if the pen on the paper is most helpful for you to like actually be able to write it, great. If not, sit in meditation and really just have that conversation with her on a soul level. And it might take a little time, or it might not, for you to hear her and what she has to say. The other thing I've done in the past, which not in this exact same situation, but I've literally made a pot of tea, and I've gotten 2 cups, right? And I put the 2 cups at a table, or like in my living room, whatever, you can sit on your sofa or wherever you're at, and get the 2 cups and pour tea into both of them, like legitimately, like you're going to have this conversation, and just sit with it and just really ask. And maybe that's where you can journal, if you're finding it hard to just like really hear, or you can pour the cup of tea and you can just sit and meditate, or you can pour the cup of tea and put a teddy bear, or whatever, if you have a dog or a cat or whatever wants to be that symbol for you, just let that be the symbol. It could be a pillow, it could be a cushion. Let's not overcomplicate it. And while that might sound silly, I promise you that if you allow yourself to be in the energy that you are having that healing conversation with them, that you will heal your heart and release the ideas that you're going to heal them, right? Because that's always the trap. When we think we're going to heal somebody else, that's the trap, because we're only here to heal ourselves, shine the light, and show the way. And so please just stay really, really focused on that inward journey, and not what they are doing or not doing as a result of our work, right? It's a hard one because we do all this work hoping that we can mend and build relationships and attract relationships when we're just doing the work for ourselves. So hopefully that's helpful. I know there was like a 2-part there. Again, let me know in the comments if there's any additional clarification you'd like. All right, next question. Marriage divorce question. My sister doesn't want to go and doesn't want to stay. She's been in counseling and invested, but he reverts, gets called out, then shuts down. When is it time to throw in the towel? Okay, I would just get rid of the idea of throwing the towel. And I would also get rid of the ideas about marriage and divorce, because oftentimes that feels like that's so contractual. And I think the paper trail of contracts is not really where we want to be in the energies here. We want to be in the energies of what is my soul contract here. And I'm not saying this lightly, hang with me on this whole thing. If you feel that someone is really holding you back from your spiritual ascension and growth, then it's not about throwing in the towel. It's about, wow, I want to take my power back so that I can do what I came here to do on planet Earth in this lifetime, whatever it is. If it's to be the crochet queen, or it's to be the best mom on the planet, or it's to be a #1 New York Times bestseller, whatever it is that you designed coming into this lifetime, I promise you, you put a ton of really, I was going to say crazy characters, but I don't mean it literally, but you put a lot of characters in this play and in all of these scenes so that you had all these exciting chapters. And this husband is that. He's one of those exciting chapters where you are like in your cocoon going, I want to grow. And they're like, yeah, no, shut the door. Don't blossom. Don't come out of your butterfly. Because when we come out of our butterflies, we challenge everyone in our whole sphere of friends, family, significant others, right? All of these people get, I don't want to say triggered, but some get triggered and some get really inspired. And if the people closest to you are not inspired by your desire for growth and moving forward and moving on into bigger, not bigger, but like more soulful things that make your heart sing, if they're not ready for that, let them go. And again, I'm not saying that lightly. I'm not saying just like, oh, what the heck, just forget about marriages. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying follow your soul's contract, because if you don't, you're just going to repeat the same person in the next relationship, right? So even if you do leave them, you're going to get the same guy with the same issues that's trying to hold you back, because only you can break through the cocoon, right? It's like a butterfly comes out of a cocoon on their own. Nobody comes and peels back the layers and says, okay, you're free, right? And they have to like grow and they have to like elbow their way out of that little cocoon. So that's what we're all doing on this spiritual ascension journey, is we're elbowing kind of like gently our way out of this confinement of these ideas of who we think we are, so that we can grow and get our wings and fly and be free from the ideas that are holding us back from absolutely living in pure light and love on planet Earth, which is a relatively low vibrational place, according to a lot of people that want to reflect that back to us. It's not. It's blissful, it's beautiful, it's oneness, it's unity at every turn. Mother Nature shows us this all the time. But until we actually unravel our mind enough that we can feel that and experience that for ourselves, then it can feel dark and it can feel a little bit ill, just a little bit too much. So, all right, hopefully that helps. I know I'm not saying like throw in the towel, don't throw in the towel. I hope you can see that it's much more profound than divorce or marriage. This is like, we're talking soul contract stuff here. So let me know what your sister says. Hopefully she'll watch this. Hopefully she'll get a little inspiration and know that she is not alone in wanting to live life to its fullest. And we are all here to help support her. All right. Exciting. I can't wait. Actually, I feel really good about this. I don't know your sister. So we'll have to see what happens. Okay. In the comments, let me know if there's anything additional. I'm checking the live comments here too. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to grab a little sip of tea. Okay. I'm a woman. Question 5. I'm a woman in my early 60s and I feel invisible. I know it's my mindset that needs to change, but it's hard. Some women get lots of attention and date younger men. What do I need to change to have that? Yeah, I think you're on it. Like you see that you're invisible, and so it's like you're attracting that invisibleness. Because if you come out with your vibrancy and your innocence, because young women, yes, there's an element to just like no wrinkles and just, that glow. But our goal as humans is to keep the glow all the way to the end. And why don't we? Why don't we keep our glow all the way to the end? Because life gets in the way and a lot of stuff hits our heart, messes up our mind. Even Lily is barking at this one. She's like, yeah, you humans, you're just crazy. You just don't get it. And we get out of the flow of just feeling love and just feeling the grace of what's out there, feeling the opportunity, right? Young people are like, anything's possible, because they haven't lived enough and been beaten down enough. But that's the whole point, is that we set up all these, situations where we feel beaten down so that we can shine brightly. And sometimes, we go through a whole lifetime, we don't make it. We don't actually get our light back. We just let it get dampened and dampened and dampened. And so that's what it's all about on this spiritual ascension journey is no, let your light get brighter and brighter and brighter so that your sphere of influence is going out into the whole planet, right? Covering the whole planet. And when we do that, and the brighter our light gets, the more other people that are doing the same thing we connect. And we create this incredible blanket of love and light for all of planet Earth. That's how we heal. And that's what unity is. And that's what the ultimate reality of oneness is. And all it takes is for us to just dig deep into ourselves and let all the light shine, right? Come brightly to the table. So a lot of times younger people have that advantage that they just haven't endured as much life. And I think the faster we can get beyond the idea of like the wrinkles and, all of this stuff that comes to us with age and look at them as character lines, like, wow, I've really lived a life and I've really learned from it. And when you start radiating that, I mean, okay, here's an example that just came to mind. Last night I went out to this beautiful, well, it was a fun night. It was music from a friend that sings. She's just amazing up there on stage. And I don't go out a lot in these kinds of, situations, but I was out and I was sitting with a friend and this beautiful man came over and started chatting with us and just said, oh, I just basically like not in these words, but said, oh, I just saw your light and I just want to come over and say hi. And he was beautiful and his light was bright. And he just like said, you guys' skin, like you're glowing, and we were both kind of sitting there and I think it's kind of interesting. We didn't have this actual conversation, but I think he thought we were his age and he's like, looks like 40s. And he mentioned something about being 40s. And so I love it. If you're watching the show, gentlemen, from last night, yeah, you're glowing. And I love that you see us glowing, and the wrinkles were more of character lines and they're not even something that we see. So the reason why I'm telling that story is for the individual asking the question that you just have to keep shining your light brightly and not bring all of the stories from the subconscious mind into these social situations, right? And I just was really grateful that this beautiful being that was, conscious and on the awakening journey approached us and reminded us that there are a lot of great men out there doing the work. So let's just keep looking for all the great men out there doing the work. And we're going to attract that because light attracts light. Dark attracts dark. We know that, right? And light attracts dark. Don't get me wrong. But that's the beauty and the dance that we call into our life to make it exciting and to be able to see the dark and witness the dark and know that the dark is also within each one of us. It's the balance of the light and the dark. So, all right, I digress slightly there, but I just wanted to give some of those examples of really just shining your light brightly for all to see, and the innocence, and letting go of all of the resentment of what life has brought us. Okay, if there's any other comments, please put them in below, and then let's go on to the next question. I feel like we've got so many and we're running out of time. All right. Hi, question for your YouTube show. I have learned all about uncovering the love within and feel that oneness with all that is. This life is indeed a dream or illusion, as A Course in Miracles states. I feel this bliss, but why do I get triggered again and again? How can I transcend this? And the first response that comes to mind, one program at a time. What do I mean by program? I think you know what I mean. It is as soon as you transcend one thing and you feel like, oh, I broke through that and I'm feeling good about that. I'm not fearing that, or I'm not feeling shame about that. Then something else comes in, right? It's like, or something comes back to test us and we're like, dang it, I thought I worked through that. Well, you probably did. But then you've got to face it again, because the universe likes to give us these little, I call them like a little initiations, because they're just saying, like, show us that you're ready to go to the next level. And honestly, until we're Buddha, Krishna, Allah, Jesus, whoever you see as an enlightened master, the Dalai Lama, until you've reached sort of that level, and even those individuals have growth. Until you've reached that, you're going to be calling in over and over and over again examples from people, places, and things that will give you greater lessons of an expansion of consciousness. And so the wobble is always going to be there. The triggers are always going to be there. It's always about how, and don't hang on the word quickly, but how quickly can we get back to a blissfully neutral state? So we achieve this, yes, I get it. I guess I know how the universe works. Like, I get that it's all an illusion. I get that we're living in an altered reality. All of that. And then boom, like something happens that's, you can't ignore it because it's right here. It's like, it's happening. I'm feeling it. And those are the triggers or life experiences that give us the biggest growth. And so it's always about growth. And I know you know that. Sometimes it just helps to be reminded that we are really transcending program after program after program, but it's our programs, right? So it's like, what happened to me in my life, and my trauma, big T, little t trauma? What happened in my ancestry? So what is it that's happening to me in my ancestral lineage that's coming forward for observation in the subconscious mind? And I'm speaking to people who are really on the awakening journey. Like, these are the things that we're working through. And if you get through those, then you've still got the entire collective conscious and the mind that's out there, the collective mind. We think we're individuals. We think we're so separated, but we're not. We're not. The minute you think one thing and you're clear on it, you're going to get someone from your community challenging you unknowingly, oftentimes, right? To see, how are you responding? So coming back to that blissfully neutral state is really the key. And so until we get really good at flexing that muscle, and it's practice, just like you can't go to the gym and like get every muscle, big and bulky, you got to keep going over and over and over again. And so that's why we keep going over and over and over again. And I think we're sort of trained in our brain to think that, if I've done the work, then I should not have to do that again. It's like, or I should not have a feeling about that. And it's like, no, we're human because we're here to have the feelings. And again, having feelings is so important, because then we know we're not numb. We know what we're experiencing and feeling, so we can just allow it and let it go. And that is really the practice, is actually feeling it and letting it go. And then we get back to that blissfully neutral state with less drama. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. If you want to hear more, please put it in the questions or in the comments, and I'm happy to elaborate. All right. Let's go to the next question. I've been served divorce papers. I knew it was coming, but it never feels good, especially since it's a second time. Now I'm wondering how to not see this as another failure. How do I move on and be a nice person? And I think there's some emphasis on the nice person part. Well, you don't close your heart, for number one, because honestly, whoever you are and however strong you may be, divorce allows you to experience heartache at a level that doesn't feel good. It just doesn't. But heartbreak is one of the most incredible lessons that we get in the human experience, because it's like almost like the exact opposite of just like pure unconditional love in a sense, right? Because heartbreak can create fear, a fear of loss, a feeling of separation, when we loved being in the pure love, the innocence, the oh my gosh, your love makes me want to move mountains, like I can do anything when we're first in love, right? And so for whatever reason, you've called this person in for a specific lesson, and then you've asked them to leave. Maybe because you're not getting the lesson. Maybe you're just not getting the lesson. Look at the parallels between the first wife and the second wife, and let me know if there's a theme, or all your relationships, right? So what is the theme that's coming forward about you, not about them, not, oh, they're this or they're that, or no. I mean, you can put that list together, but the list I want you to focus on is you, and that's where you get nice, because you start to realize, ooh, dang, yeah, that was me. Yeah, that was me that did that. Okay, yeah, that was me. That was me. And when you start to realize what's you can start to shift who you start attracting. But only then. Because if you keep looking at them, that's where things get ugly. Because you want to blame them. I'm not saying you specifically, but in general, people want to blame the other person. I gave you everything and then you did this to me. It's like, well, I told you all my scars and all my wounds coming into this relationship, and you promised me you would never leave. Yeah, no. We are with people for spiritual lessons and learnings. And yes, we can be with someone for a lifetime. Yes, we can. But the caveat there is that both people have to want to learn the lessons of which their partner brings. And a lot of times it's a shared wound. When it's a shared wound, it's really hard. It's really hard to do the work sometimes together, but it doesn't have to be. You just have to both be ready to step into that wound, and also somewhat at the same time, or in a balance at least, where you can acknowledge like, ooh, okay, I see you're there. I just need to hold the space for you. I don't need to get my own stuff triggered in this and stir the pot, right? That, okay, got it. I'm just here to help support you in this time. So yeah, I feel like I might have digressed a little bit there, but you want to know about how to move on and be a nice person. So figure out all about you and figure about how you could maybe have loved differently, and how you can love yourself differently. Because when we love ourselves, then we're inviting someone to just love us for who we are, not the illusion of which they think we are or want us to be. That we actually show exactly who we are. And they love who we are at our core, not the characters that we play on TV. All right. Let me know in the comments if there's any additional clarity you'd like. Let's go on to the next question. Ooh, hang on. Okay. I lived in an orphanage for 4 months before being adopted. My biological father didn't raise me. I was reunited to him when I was 30, about 20 years ago. So I guess that makes you about 50. My father doesn't want to talk to me, and I find that difficult. However, he's a loner, and so am I. So I kind of get it, but I want it to change because I feel rejection from my birth parents, even though I now get along with my birth mother. Relationships with women are hard. How do I get through all of this? There's a lot packed in here. I'm going to do my best. I might have to break it into a few sections, but thank you for your vulnerability and sharing about your orphanage in the first 4 months. I mean, we get imprinted in those first 7 years of our life, and the first 4 months, it's very basic needs that we have for survival and love and unconditional love. And so you may not have received that. I don't know the conditions of your orphanage, but we do know as little humans when we're not in a family unit that's, coddling us and just like really, really caring for us. What comes to mind, and I have a feeling you might know this, is that there's a gratefulness in being an orphanage, an orphan in an orphanage, that one could have if you want to trust that your biological parents did not feel they were equipped to care for you. And there's a huge blessing for you in that. I'm not saying this is your exact situation because I don't know your situation, but some kids that don't get given up and aren't put into an orphanage are sexually abused, are at drug parties, are neglected, are sitting in dirty diapers for days. And being in an orphanage could have been the best possible thing for you at the time. Yeah, it didn't give you that strong security blanket of that foundation of being in a family unit, which we all, love to have. But it gave you a sense of survival and probably makes you a really strong-willed person today. But when the ego takes over in that strong will, you come from the mind, not from the heart. And there's a huge difference here, right? So it comes to mind, I don't know if you're familiar with Wayne Dyer. He's now passed, but just an amazing soul. I don't remember how long he lived in an orphanage, but he was definitely an orphan for, I want to say, like several years. And now, when he spoke in his, in his adult years, he came to a place of realizing how valuable that orphanage experience was to him. And without going into details of his story, because I actually don't remember all of it, I'm just suggesting that there are many people who find those early years of sort of suffering to be some of their most instrumental years because it gave them a toolbox and a skill set that served them. But there's also a time where I think that toolbox, because it's very much survival oriented and ego oriented, doesn't serve us any longer either. Or it needs a tweak, it needs a key, it needs to be unlocked because we find ways to sort of manipulate people and systems and places and things so that we don't lose love. We don't want to lose love because we know what it's like to feel alone, subconsciously, most likely, because at 4 months, you may not remember consciously what you were thinking now, but subconsciously, when someone came and loved you, man, you wanted to hang on to that love. And then when somebody hurt you and dumped you by the side of the road, and I don't mean literally, could be your adoptive parents, that they came in, they rescued you, and you just, oh man, I just feel so rescued, whether you were 5 months or 5 years, that feeling of being loved, and then probably having another experience of abandonment set you right back to that feeling of, I am all alone in the universe. So it's interesting that you say that your father doesn't want to talk to you and that he's a loner. You learned how to be a loner at 4 months old. You learned how to navigate without probably the same level of attention that most kids get that have a mom and a dad that are doting on them. And you're still playing out that program. So work on blowing up that program, because your father is now reflecting that same program. And again, there may be a real soulful purpose, I'm sure there is, to your father not speaking to you. Number one, because he may not be in a good place. Number two, he may not be able to provide you the type of relationship that you really want and need. And number three, all relationships are just mirrors reflecting to us something about ourselves that we want to heal, or back to wholeness. We're always whole. We're always perfect and whole, but we don't see it that way because our mind is in the way of understanding our innate true self of who we really are. So your dad is a blessing. He's giving you a great opportunity to feel and to experience. I would also let him go, in the sense of, don't put a lot of emotional energy into he won't let me see him, and put the energy back into you as to why are you a loner? Because honestly, like, nobody really wants to be alone. Anyone says that they want to be alone, like, I get it. I like alone time too, but we want to be in community because there's a chemical that we all humans have, and it's called oxytocin. And the counterbalance to that is cortisol. And oxytocin is something we all desire to have because it's love. It helps us feel love. It's called the cuddle hormone for a reason. And we all know what cortisol does. It creates anxiety, fear, and just a general icky feeling. We do not want to be in high cortisol levels. We want to be in high oxytocin levels. And we get that in relationship with others. And it can be as simple as eye contact with the barista at Starbucks when you say, "Thank you for making my coffee." And they look back at you and they go, "Thank you for drinking my coffee." And there's just that connection, that moment of validation that you are here on planet Earth and that someone sees you. Don't give up those little opportunities for people to see you because you want to be a loner. So you can say, "I can survive. I can do it on my own." No, that's an old program. That's the program that you got instilled from a very young age that you are calling to blow up. You set that program up. You chose those parents. You chose all of this. Always remember that. So just keep going back to, why did I choose this? How do I see it differently? And you're going to start changing your own energy. And when you change your own energy, hey, you never know, your dad might just give you a little jingle. But don't be attached to his behavior. Stay focused on how you want to feel, because how you want to feel is how you're going to feel. And then you will start attracting other relationships. And maybe it ends up that it's some other man that's around your dad's age that comes into your life, and it's just a beautiful example of a male bonding experience that's like father and son. It may not have to be your biological father. Let's not put so much weight on genetics here when it comes to, how we are able to express ourselves and share and give and receive love. All right. In the comments, let me know if there's anything there that you want clarified, or it's something that resonates, whether it's your question or not. I think we've got one more question here that we can get to before the day. Oh, I've got a couple more. Let's keep going. All right. I'm a very spiritual person and often feel at one with God or source or the universe. However, I still feel loneliness. I really want to overcome this, but how? Well, this one can be a challenge because it's really about welcoming it as opposed to overcoming it, right? So we get this feeling that we want to get rid of it, overcome it, conquer the challenge. Those are all fine, but the words have a meaning behind them that are very like forceful, in the sense of like you doing something. And we want to be in that like real centered place of allowing spirit to flow through us. And when spirit flows through us and it connects to nature, if you're a surfer, you're out in the waves and you just feel that connection, that's where you're starting to feel the oneness, and the loneliness subsides. So as you move through life every day and you're out in nature, it could be that you're walking on grass, the sand, pebbles, and you're feeling the sensation in your feet of what it's like to be there and experience that you start to realize, oh, I'm part of this. I'm not separate from this. And that's where we start to recognize that loneliness is also an illusion. It's a good one, and I don't want to ignore it because a lot of us feel it. I still feel it. I still feel loneliness. In a true enlightened sense, there's no space for loneliness because we just know that we are everything and we are connected to everything. But on the journey getting to this enlightened state, we experience loneliness. Sometimes it's physical loneliness from another human, and sometimes it's the loneliness from separation from source. The moment that we realized that, oh, I'm in this body and I'm separate. That's the illusion, but that I'm separate from source. And we spend the rest of our life, and many lifetimes in some cases, lining back up to knowing who we really are as a part of source, as a part of God. And I don't mean that in a religious definition sense, but we start to realize like, oh, I am all of this and nothing at the same time. I reference this a lot, but there's a movie, Lucy, and at the very end, it's just so profound how she recognizes that she is everything and nothing all at the same time. And that's a beautiful place to be, and one that, as I said, can take lifetimes to get to. But the loneliness, welcome it, because you're on an ascension journey. Again, you're feeling an emotion that's helping you be here now in this body. And the more you can feel it and allow it to release, the more you're going to start to feel the connection back to everything. But if you stay focused on the loneliness feeling from the standpoint of, I'm so lonely, then that storyline is going to really anchor in the emotion of loneliness, and then you don't release the loneliness, right? Really important distinction. Okay, well, let's go on to the next question because we're down to the wire. Actually, well, let's see. All right, the last question real quick. You talk about an incredibly vulnerable story in your book about herpes. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. Do you ever struggle with this now and having to tell people? Does it hinder you in any way? Let's see. I think I have my book right here. Yeah, if you're not familiar with my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. Obviously, herpes is on the title, and I do tell a very vulnerable story. So thank you for acknowledging that. And I'm happy to say that it's not something that bothers me at all today. And it's one of the reasons why I feel Spirit called me to put it on the book, is that, it's really about getting through the mind viruses. It's the mind virus of what everybody else wants to project onto the herpes virus as bad, especially because it's related to a sexually transmitted disease, right? So there's like, oh, just like AIDS, it was like HIV. It was associated with years ago with homosexuals, right? There was these words that were so triggering, and I love that herpes is on the title. I know it triggers a lot of people, and some people don't buy my book because it says herpes. They're like, I don't have herpes and I don't want herpes, or I have herpes and I don't want to talk about herpes, or whatever. But it's a mind virus that we want to separate ourselves and think that we're damaged goods, or that any of these ideas that are out there in the collective. We just need to release them. And I have so many videos on herpes. You can see in my YouTube channel on the playlist, herpes. Great talks with lots of people around herpes, my own experiences with herpes. There's a herpes handbook that's on my website, bethbell.me. So please, there's so many resources. If you have herpes, know that the suffering can end right now. If you don't have herpes, but you know someone that does, maybe dig in a little bit deeper into the psyche of it all, because whether it's herpes or it's the next, virus that scares everyone, it's all about fear. And that's what we're here to do, is to release fear and move it into love for ourselves. And so I'll leave it with that, because as I said, there's so many other videos that I've talked about herpes, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I absolutely love talking about it, because I think that once you get to the other side of the ideas around it, it's so beautiful. And, one last thing that comes to mind to say is that, secrets will eat you up. The lack of truth telling will burn you down. And when you are just a truth teller, that vulnerability, and of course you use it with discernment. I'm not saying you run out. I don't run out on the street and tell everybody, herpes. No. But you use your discernment, but you are open. You're open-hearted. It's not something that needs to trigger you, and it's not something that needs to trigger others either. So if you have any experience with this topic, maybe you even ghosted somebody that told you vulnerably that they had it, and now you're feeling like, oh, geez, was that the right thing to do? Learn about it. Let's heal this, because if we can heal that virus in our minds, we can heal any virus, honestly. But we got to do it together and not make people feel isolated, alone, shame. All right, we are down to the hour. I so appreciate you joining the show. And I would love for you to go to bethbell.me, because there are so many resources for you there. There's everything from the psychedelic resource guide, the herpes handbook, the awakening and healing handbook. There's the Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics book, of course. So much more on there. So bethbell.me, check it out. We're soon going to have the state of the heart assessment. So if you are watching this video, go to bethbell.me, check it out. And I look forward to seeing you next week, Sunday, 11 a.m. on Pacific time, here on the YouTube channel at Beth Bell Live. So wishing you much bliss and love on life's journey, and see you next week.